Welcome to Teaching Articulations with Tech. I'm Brian Thompson. This is lesson number 7, applying what we have learned. Let's review really quick the things we've talked about in all of these lessons. First, of course, all the different types of articulations. Knowing what the articulations are is going to make it really easy for you to play all the different music you're going to see. And if you can play all these articulations, your judges are really going to notice that and be able to give you a good score for that. Make sure that you have those subtle differences between the beginning, middle, and end of notes. Make sure you've got that air accent at the beginning of the ones that need the air accent, or no air accent, just smooth air. Make sure you're connecting notes when they need to be connected, or separating notes when they need separated. Sometimes you're going to want to do staccatissimo because you're going to play so short. Other times you're going to want it to be really long. What you need to do is discuss as a class and with your teacher what articulation you want and how long you want it. How do you want us to shape these articulations? How do you want us to shape these crescendos and decrescendos so you can play them together and unified? Because a good band can play short and long, but a great band can play all of the different articulations and make them sound different. Get those subtle differences between each of them. So we're going to practice on the song The Thunderer, one of my favorites by John Philip Sousa, written in 1889. That's a couple of years back. Let's look at the bass line here. What's cool with this bass line is noticing when there's changes. If we look at the last measure and the first measure, the second line, you can see it change. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. That's going to be louder. Even though it doesn't say louder, you're going to play it louder than the other parts. The other thing you're going to do is make it short. And the articulation I would use on the dotted quarter and eighth would be ta-da, da, ta-da, ta-da, ta-ta-ta. Make sure they're nice and short. Then the last two measures, you're going to want those short again. So practice playing with the staccato style on those and get that ta-da. That's really quick to get you from the eighth note to the dotted quarter note. Let's listen to the bass part. Number 3, the Thunderer. 1, 2, 1. All right, the next part we're going to learn is the accompaniment. The accompaniment, like a lot of the other ones we've looked at. We can see how the rhythms kind of change together. They have close to the same rhythm, just on the end of the beat. Make sure to leave space between the accompaniment note and the bass note. So quarter notes are played like eighth notes to leave that space in between. Then you kind of line up there on the second line, first measure, and the second to last measure. Dun, 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 dun. Make sure not to rush those. It's really easy to rush that last measure. Let's listen to the recording of those put together. Number 3, the Thunderer. 1, 2, 1. The next one we're going to talk about is actually the melody, not the counter melody. I want to really hear a nice, strong melody. This is probably one of Sousa's most famous melodies. Notice we have the accent. Where should we release long notes? Whole notes should be released on the beat. We're playing a trio section, yet there should still be space. If we look at the fourth full measure, a whole note tied to a half note should actually be released on the beat to give it a little space. And then from the last note of the first line to the first note of the second line, don't hold that note. Release that note on the beat to give the music a little space to breathe. On the eighth notes, you're going to make them really short, more like 16th notes. Da 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 da. Okay, but it is a trio section. Trio is a little longer, and yet there's not giant slurs over it, so maybe there's a little space. I think that would be something your teacher would decide. How much space do you want or how much space don't you want? That's something you can interpret. Let's take a listen to the recording that I did for you guys. Listen for phrasing, rhythm, harmony, articulation. Number 3, the thunderer. 1, 2, 1. The last thing we're going to do is add the counter melody. That would be the something that gives life to the melody, something else happening rather than just repeating the melody again. We have this counter melody that goes on at the same time as the melody to give it more energy. We can see here how the melody and the counter melody don't change at the same time. There's things happening to the counter melody when the melody is not doing things. So bring your part out when you're playing the whole notes. You might back off a little bit so the other part can be heard or the other parts can be heard. Let's go ahead and listen to the recording. Once again, listen for phrasing, rhythm, harmony, and articulation. Number 3, the thunderer. 1, 2, 1. Well, there it is, the thunderer. Hey, I hope you learned some things from these lessons. I have some other lessons that I think could help you out a lot. I have a whole set of lessons on intonation. These ones are all on paper, and I'm working on putting them in video. I have rudimental books that go great for percussion if you want to assign a rudiment for them to practice. You can go download this PDF plus accompaniments, and they can practice along with those. You also can buy this book, Progressive Musical Studies, at severeband.com or at JW Pepper. Thank you guys, and good luck with your playing. I hope you guys do well. If your articulations are really good, please let me know and give me a review. Thanks. Bye.